You are watching Newsx and I'm Megha Sharma. This is yet another episode on Newsx, a special series called the Anti-Terror Alliance. India has sent its delegations to 33 countries across the globe to send out a stern, strong message of zero tolerance against terror. Amongst the 33 countries that are being visited by all-party parliamentary delegations, the important countries include Singapore and Indonesia as well. Southeast Asia has been a victim of terrorism like several other countries across the globe. Take a look. On 12th of October 2002, a series of bomb blasts rang out at popular night spots in Kuta in Bali. There were 202 innocent people that lost their lives while 209 people were injured in the attack that rocked the island nation and crippled its tourism industry. On 27th of February in 2004, a Philippine registered ferry called the Super Ferry 14 was bombed in an attack that left 116 people, including at least 15 children aged between 6 and 16 years, dead. Both instances are amongst some of the worst terror attacks to have rocked Southeast Asia, with a common link between them. The fundamentalist Islamist groups have bled ASEAN nations for decades. The terror groups originating from and aided by Pakistan have wreaked devastation throughout the region. Now India is taking a stand. It is time for the world to rally together against terrorism, one of the biggest collective challenges that the world faces today. Delegations began their tours of partner nations to push forth India's stance against terrorism and seek unity from the world. We are joined today by guests from Southeast Asian nations, and the questions we ask now: is it time for the United Nations to pass a clear resolution to define terror? Is it now time for countries across the globe to unite with India to fight terrorism emanating from Pakistan? Let's start our conversation. Joining me on the telecast is Professor Cherian George. He is a professor at the Hong Kong Baptist University. Professor Cherian George, thank you so much. And my first question about what impression do you have of a number of members of parliament, former ambassadors from India traveling in delegations to 33 countries, including in Singapore. They will be visiting in Indonesia as well and other Southeast Asian countries. How significant and essential a message is being sent out that there is going to be zero tolerance against terror, keeping in mind that this is a menace that is not left ASEAN nations, particularly Singapore and Indonesia, isolated?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I should state that in addition to being a professor based in Hong Kong, I am a Singaporean, a Singapore citizen. There are not many of us. There are only about 3.5 to 4 million, which means that we are about a quarter the size of Chennai's population and maybe 1/10 of Delhi's. A very small country. I think certainly when I read the news about the wave of delegations going from India around the world, including to Singapore, I was struck by many of its features. And I suppose one of the most striking aspects of the delegation is that it is multi-party, multi-religious, clearly intended to show a unified national front on the part of India against this horrific terror attack that the country suffered recently. Of course, it is unusual because in terms of what is the purpose of it? Is it actually necessary to send such a large multi-party, multi-politician group around when probably the same message, the same intelligence could have been communicated government to government? And I suppose reading what has been read in the India's independent media, there's no doubt that
so are you saying it is futile for India to have sent its emissaries across the globe to hammer home the point that there was in fact a terror attack that took place on April 22nd, and India reserved the rights to protect its sovereignty and strike the terrorist outfits and organizations that were being harbored in Pakistan, that continue to be harbored even now. There are several of these
Singapore has always
terrorists
put a premium
that
on
are being bred in Pakistan, and Pakistan, despite having provided all proof, evidence, dossiers, refuses to extradite these terrorists despite a number of requests being made by India. Not to mention, we have been fighting it out at the United Nations Security Council, at the 1267 Sanctions Committee, to designate the TRF, the Resistance Front, which is an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Toiba. Lashkar-e-Toiba is a UN designated organization which is led by Hafiz Saeed, who is a UN designated global terrorist, continues to find safe haven in Pakistan. He was the one who orchestrated the 26/11 attacks. He has still not been handed over to India. The fact that the resistance force is an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Toiba and a name change is being done by these terrorist organizations so that the global community is fooled, that they assume that there is no linkage between Lashkar-e-Toiba, which obviously finds its headquarters located in Pakistan, and the resistance force. Do you think all these efforts that are being made by India to designate these terrorists, to ensure that no further terrorist attacks take place, the level that happened on 22nd April this year, or for that matter what happened in 26/11, or for that matter I just raised those two terrorist attacks, the one that had taken place in Philippines, the other one taking place in Indonesia, this one taking place in Singapore. So do you think the fight against terrorism is only being isolatedly done by India, and should countries like Singapore and Indonesia and United States and United Kingdom, Greece not partake in it?
Has never needed any outside countries' encouragement to be aligned with the world, other countries in the fight against terror. But I think probably other countries would make their case better if they do not overplay their hand. For example, there are some, I'm sure you know the situation in India far better than I do.
I would be very interested in knowing what your comments would have been if there was an American delegation that was sent out to Singapore or to Indonesia or to India for that matter, right after the 9/11 attacks took place. In fact, the United States of America does not let the world forget that 9/11 took place. The Jewish community in Israel does not let the world forget that there was a genocide, the Holocaust took place, and there were millions of Jews that died. So I do not understand, why are you making a differentiation and bringing about a bias if India goes and propagates the message that it wants to send across to the world, that there is terrorism and that terrorism is emanating out of Pakistan, and world needs to not just wake up and take notice, but act on it, because it is going to hurt you in your backyard as well. And if it were a Jewish committee or a Jewish organization or an Israeli organization that was spreading the word, holding seminars, putting out cinematographic content on your theaters and on your television screens, you would not raise an eyebrow.
The terror threats facing Singapore. I'm, as a Singaporean and a critic of the Singapore government, I can say that I do not feel the need for any other government to educate my government in what the threats are facing Singapore. I have no idea what the relevance of your claims were.
Do you
All
have,
I'm saying
just out of interest, do you think there are embassies, there are missions of Israeli government, of the Jewish committee in Singapore? Yes, no?
Being made the way you have between the attacks done in Singapore and Pakistan.
I'm appalled to hear that you somehow are so dismissive that there has been a terror attack that has taken place in a country, forget about whether it is in India or United States of America or any part of the world.
I think the location matters.
It is a targeted attack at civilians. These individuals were singled out for their religion. They were stripped naked to identify whether they were Hindus or Muslims, and once identified, they were asked to recite the kalma, which is a Muslim prayer, and when they could not, they were just shot point blank. Are you telling me if the Indian government puts out an initiative to educate the world through its emissaries, whether it is my external affairs minister or my foreign secretary, or for that matter my member of parliaments or my former ambassadors, taking on the charge and letting the world know what has happened, so that the voice does not get died down by the hypocrisy of Pakistan, by its false narrative that it is Pakistan that is the victim of terrorism, which it is, because, well, if you are going to breed terrorists in your own country, your own backyard, well, it is going to come and bite you. And that's exactly what is happening with Pakistan as well. Jim Rice, professor of